Hi everyone, this is Dan from Riot Games Hong Kong and Singapore studio. But today, I'm actually wearing another hat proudly as the ambassador for Women in Games. Women in Games is a global advocating platform support the gender equality in games. And thanks to the platform, I get to know so many exceptional studio leaders and game developers. And today, I'm honored to bring 3 of them to the panel to discuss on the subject, how do we break the limit for women in games? So just now, it was mentioned that we have Kathy sitting next to me, who is the head of operation and people for Riot Games. And we have Rebecca. Can we have a visual of Rebecca? Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, she's calling in from Shanghai, and she's the general manager for visual concept. Last but not least, we have Kah Hui, who is the global localization manager from Keyword Studio, calling in from Singapore. So today we have an amazing panel of 3 cities, 3 leaders, and then we're gonna talk about the things we care the most. So given that we only have a 40 minutes precious time, I'm gonna jump into the very first question. You've all been studio leaders, people managers, the hub of the industry, and from different functions of the game production. So can you speak a little bit more about yourself, and why do you think it matters to improve the gender balance and improve for women in games? I'm gonna have Kathy to start.
Sure, and thank you to Cyberport for hosting this. I just want to call that out, and Dan for facilitating us today. Really excited to be here. So on the topic of women in games, I just want to start by talking a little bit then about what it means in terms of community, player base, and how that relates within the industry. So you asked me, well, why? Why should we care about this, and why should we care about the gender imbalance? Starting with our players. Potentially about 20, 30 years ago, when gaming was really new, it was more male dominant in terms of if we look at the player base. But that's completely changing today. And if you look at the latest stats, even on the Asia region alone, across China, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, including Hong Kong, it's almost becoming equalized. It's on average about 40% female gamer base today. And that's not just in traditional games where women used to play more on puzzle games and kind of adventure games, but even on FPS, MOBA, and all these other types of games and esports, you see more and more females leaning in. So if we start with that player base in the community, women are starting to equalize in terms of who that player and audience is, and everyone coming together in terms of fandom and love of the games and love of the gameplay. So now we take that within industry. Well, are we representative in who works on the games, who works behind the scenes and delivering these experiences to the players? Now that it's becoming more balanced in terms of the male and female and also other genders, of course, other diverse genders as well. Well, it's still not there yet. And I don't know all the different stats, but even within a lot of the game companies that I'm exposed to, it's probably around 20% female. And I come from the tech industry as well, and I'm seeing the same trends of about 20% on average is female within these types of industries and companies. So that is showing already the lack of representation in terms of the diverse mindset, the diverse leadership, the diverse development and game thought of how do we provide the best products, how do we provide the best experiences to serve that player base, because it's all again about the players at the end of the day. So I think that's one big area of focus and why we want to talk about this topic today. And the second, just across the board in terms of all industries, when we look at diversity, there's been so many studies done again and again. One book I like to go back to is Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, of all the studies that have been done where greater diversity, greater inclusion on any team, any leadership, any bodies in a room coming together to ideate shows greater output, greater revenue, greater potential, greater value and experience added. So we need to get back to those in the roots and provide that diverse community and bring them together in terms of the player, but also within the industry as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kathy, for the share. Next one is Rebecca. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree, totally agree with what Kathy just talking about. The industry itself is growing, and we know that it is growing in a very quick speed. the target for number of players for the end of this year is somewhere around 3.24 billion. If you use Kathy's numbers to go do the math, it's approximately 40 to 45% female right now. So you talk about 1.45 billion players around the world are female. Are we really looking for content that is suitable for this potential audience? And also do we take their concern into consideration when we are doing the games development? So these are all good things to think about. And in the industry, I also developed myself from a tech side and then eventually going to the game side. And I agree with Kathy. I think that kind of numbers. To be honest, what my personal experience is like, the tech side is even slightly better than the game side. Usually it's around 20% female. That is easy. You can see every five employees, you have one female there. But then when it comes to games, I see a lot less. Actually, almost like 10% or 15%, depends on location around the world, and also the function that you're dealing with. So why is that is a good topics to look into? And I think all four of us actually discussed that through Women in Games before already. Is we really think there is a little bit more we can do, not just us speaking here together to get people to get interested into the topic, but also is looking into how we fulfill that channel, the pipeline of resources, and expand that into all very inclusive audience group from younger age, even from college or even high school. And how can we help them to get into the industry as well, and help them to develop their career in the industry.
Thank you, Rebecca. So for Kah Hui, just now that both Kathy and Rebecca mentioned that there's a lot more female players out there. We want to make inclusive games for them. What's your perspective on why it matters to improve gender equality and gender balance?
I think I want to echo some of the points that were made by Kathy and Rebecca. The human population, well, half of it is women. And not having them in this industry, we are effectively not tapping into the creative potential of half of the population. Can you imagine how many limits we could be breaking if we were to include them in the industry? And the other point is about making games that can relate, that speak to female gamers. I think this is something that we are not doing very well in the games industry yet, because I believe that as women become more and more, is making up a bigger portion of the gamer base, it makes sense to make games that really empower women, that shows, the hero can be of a diverse gender, not even women, but it not necessarily has to be male all the time. I think that would also inspire how the next generation of women would think about it, because now we look at the talent pipeline. Why are not more women taking this up? Why is it that they never thought about games as a potential career path? Why did they have this, some of them may think about, okay, I can be in the games industry, but, most probably I'll be HR. But why gender? Why can't I be a programmer? We got to break that kind of barrier for them so that we can fully tap on the potential of the women or people of other genders that could potentially bring to the industry.
Thank you, Kah Hui. That's a serious, very good question. The next question, I will bring it to both Rebecca and Kah Hui. You are both in the industry for more than a decade, almost two. Do you think we've made meaningful progress in the past years on the subject? Start with Rebecca, please.
Yes, I actually have to say yes. And we are all, I can see a lot of efforts, not just in one company, but also in multiple industry, in the entire industry, multiple companies together driving awareness. Of course, there are good and bad stories in the industry right now, and some of those is go viral globally. But we know that in order to actually step up and speak for those, we have to give them applause because they are very brave to talk about sensitive topics. And we feel that this is good change. people are willing to step up and discuss about sensitive topics. And second part is, I think the female leadership actually in the industry are also really willing to help. We see a lot of senior executives trying to be mentor for the employees in the company. I work with multiple game companies before, and this is the trend I'm seeing, and they are very willing to spend their own personal time to grow and raise employees from different backgrounds. And there are more official ERG, employee relationship group set up in various companies that have focused on non-binary gender, be more inclusive, and also to assist various employee groups to get together and do sharing on and be more. The company actually executives have been more active in listening, paying attention to what we are asking for. So those are all good trends, and I have seen those changes, major changes in the past decade.
Thank you, Rebecca. Kah Hui, you are affiliated with many gaming associations, including yes. Women in Localization. So what's your observation?
Well, similar to Dan, I'm also an ambassador in Women in Games, and both of us together, other hosts run a monthly session called W Coffee. We have just hit 21 sessions in 2 years. So I think in this all these sessions, there were women sharing about their stories, and I could see from the younger new entrants to the industry, they were never inspired to join the industry. There were parental, constraint, like they don't look at this as a potential career path for them. And then there were parents telling them off, not only because of gender, but games industry overall doesn't sound like a good career path. It's a very Asian parenting where they think that you should become a lawyer, you should become a doctor. So going into creative industry is not encouraged. And then there is and as women start going in the industry where they throw themselves in, when they're single, they just, give themselves to the industry, give their best. But they will come to stages of their life where they have to take on caregiver role, be it to aging parents, young children. But that also, I can see that is also a cause of us losing talent. People in the mid-career, where they could be management level next, they just step out because they couldn't take the pressure. Like game industry is really famous for the crunch. The crunch is something that kills not only women, but a lot of other people could not take that pressure. Yes. Then the other part that we want to talk about is the cultural attitudes. Even if people persevere on, even if they have a very supportive family, which I've seen, husband, children that understand that their wife, their mothers really love what they're doing, and they work around her schedules. But there are times where the cultural attitude from the whole environment is like, okay, what kind of mother are you? Why are you not more focused on what you should be doing as a woman rather than, putting so much time into your career? So these are things that, these are challenges that face all women. At some point, some stage in their life, this will come back as a barrier. So we have to think about how to change the cultural attitude as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kah Hui. I'm going to bring a question to Kathy finally. So you joined the industry recently, a year or two. What's your observation?
Yeah, I think just to echo also what Rebecca and Kah Hui talked about, a lot of it does start with the perception as well. I mean, we're talking about this, a lot of this historical context. And then what we have, the conversations we're having today and what we're doing about it. But I wanted to actually share a funny personal story. Kah Hui, you were talking about like even Asian parents. So I have a personal story. When I was a kid of the 80s and 90s, and when I was 7 years old, I got a Japanese Nintendo as a Christmas gift. Super excited, ready to wake up the next morning, set it up, play. Came downstairs, it was gone. Mom, where's my Nintendo? Oh, that's for boys. I gave it away to my friend with 2 sons. So that's just a real life example of that's where a lot of this perception started. So I did not grow up playing a Nintendo because my mom didn't think I should as a girl. But to your point, it's changing now though. And then we were talking again about like how close to half of our player base. And I think mobile device has also enabled that, right? A lot of the mobile gameplay. So where we are, then going back to the question of us being in the industry, we're doing the right things directionally of starting with the conversation. We're talking about it. And one thing Rebecca alluded to, she also came from tech, I came from tech. I actually saw in tech, the D&I conversation is still, it's ongoing, but it's actually a step ahead of where we are in gaming. Because when I look at and I reflect on a lot of the tech companies that I was exposed to, the conversations are there, they're still continuing, but a lot of the action is being taken place. So for example, like I'm a mother of two. So how do then working moms come back into the workforce? What kind of benefits are offered? And in tech, they've kind of advanced, Cisco, where I used to work, Google, Facebook, et cetera, in terms of offering specific benefits for working moms. Mother rooms in the company. I've seen also, even when at my Cisco days, of like women being able to co-share a job so that they were working part-time so they can also spend time with the kids. So there's a lot of other different conversations and actions that I also see happening from my tech days. And I'm like, let's bring those thoughts or those ideas also into the gaming side. And that's what all these conversations we're having. And it's that one example of like the mother room. Us at Riot, we set up our first Singapore studio last year in 2020. And when we were building out the office, that was one of the first questions I went to our office manager and said, is there a mother's room? Make sure there's a mother's room in the design, because we want to be able to enable working moms and just people from diverse backgrounds. It doesn't have to be that working mother, but maybe there's some other populations or other benefits we need to be able to provide to enable them to work in gaming. So I think that's where a lot of the conversation's happening, and then how do we action on it would be the next step.
Yeah, thanks for the share. Yes, just now you mentioned you're a mother of two. Actually, quite interesting that all the women today, you are all mothers. And let's have a tiny break. The question is that, do you let your kids play games? Let's have Kah Hui to start with this one.
Yes, I do. I do let my girls play games, but I do limit their screen time. I do have parental controls, and whatever they log in, I'm monitoring it so that we have to make sure that they game responsibly. But I think game bring with them, to my two girls, when they're girls, they fight a lot. Children always have this tension. But sometimes at night, I see two of them discussing how they want to design their island on Animal Crossing. And then they will think about, now someone has to go earn the bells so that they can buy this, build that, and this is on sale on Scranny. So they do have that kind of conversation, and then they practice their mathematical skills. They practice planning skills. So, and at the same time, they're having fun. And I think this is something that games bring. And at the same time, when we get together as a family and celebrate, they play games with my brother. Mm-hmm. With my brother, so they're uncles, and you see four of them multiplayer, and then there's a lot of screaming, and it's just like how you will enjoy Chinese New Year, mm-hmm. with all the excitement. But instead of gossiping around, they're having a game, they're having conversations around mm-hmm. it, and it really brings this is one thing that my children bond with my siblings, in fact. And while my mother just watches on what is going on with these young people. And therefore, to me, having them play games is important. And I want them to be able to enjoy games that are designed, made by people of diverse genders, because that brings along very different perspective, and it will teach them empathy at a young age, considering that they are gaming at a young age. So to me, inclusivity in gender, in the workforce, has a very very far effect on how it will impact children, our children that are playing games right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rebecca, you're a mother of a teenager boy. What's your story?
Well, my experience is mixed, because when I go to school parenting meeting, then when people ask me what am I doing, I usually get it's like, oh, great. I look on their face. So because a lot of people think that games is bad, pure bad for young kids. or any age. People get addicted. But what they're really going after is game. Some people may get addicted. Some people will get loss of control, and they get a very imbalanced life. But when it comes to my kid, I definitely let him play, because I think my belief on parenthood is not to forbid anything, but is to encourage and try and explain. And the most important thing is be with them. So I do select the type of games that is suitable as his age. At different age of his life, he's a teenager right now. At different age, he knows that there are certain things he cannot do, including like when can he start to have the first cup of coffee. So basically, I think it's just not just games itself is that it's not that scary. You need to understand it. You need to be with your kid to make the right selection together. And so I play a lot with my kid, and we have game time usually after all the schoolwork is done. We can play games together. Right now, he does not want to play with me because he does not want me to see all his friends' conversation. Because what he did is before I to play with him, and I have a client that actually let them come and ask me for troops and support and buff, all those kind of things, and I can see what they're talking about. And my kid feel like I'm a spy because at the end what they are talking, I was asking him like, who and who is dating? Are they really serious? And so he's like, Mom, you're too nosy. I'm not going to let you into my client anymore. But that's okay, because I think the most important thing is that tie with the kids in the family have encouraged communication. So this is more important, and this is why I think games is a very good channel of breaking the ice with a teenager.
Kathy, you want to quickly chip in on this?
Sure. So I have an 8 and a 10-year-old, both daughters. The main games they play, Roblox, Minecraft. As a family, we play a lot of Nintendo Switch, so the Super Mario suite of games, Overcooked. But as that responsible parent, I think Rebecca and Kah Hui also spoke about, I do check every game before I let them play, especially that they're at the younger age range. And I look, because I get this question asked by all the parents who know I work in gaming, I do check security, safety. So Roblox, yes, there are parental controls. You can turn off all the chatting function. Minecraft, I would limit it to a specific private server to let them play. But exactly to your point, I think they need to be learning and they need to be playing games. It's the lifestyle now. They learn social skills. My 8-year-old's hand-eye coordination skills way beyond mine. But also like the strategy, like within Roblox, for example, there's a lot of different game modes that she's playing. And I can see the way they approach each of the different stories or gameplay. There's a different strategy, and they're problem solving and thinking through how they can win that game or get to the end or whatever it might be in terms of that game journey. So absolutely, definitely playing games, but I do, like Kah Hui mentioned, limit the screen time because there's also a lot of learning outside of gaming that at a young age they need to get as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Apparently this is a topic that we are all very passionate about. Let's bring back to the subject. So the question is to Kah Hui. I always consider you my dear partner in crime because we are the co-host for Women in Games Virtual Coffee, and then we facilitate many, many sessions. What do you think that women in games need and hope to see from their employers?
I think we are talking more and more about work-life integration or work-life harmony, and we are talking now about flexible work arrangements. I think ever since the pandemic started, this has been on the topic of a lot of companies, how they're going to define their policies moving forward about going back to the workplace or not. Because as a working mother, I've spent more time with my children in the past 2 years than in the past 6 years of their life. So, but at the same time, when we implement all these flexible working arrangements that benefit working women, and not only working women, because working fathers also benefit from it, especially when they have sick children that both parents have to take care of. But what is the workplace attitude towards flexible working arrangement? there is always, we must start changing the mindset of the people, not to view people that take up flexible work arrangements as being less of a contributor to the team. And they have to start thinking not about clocking number of hours. So doing more overtime means you are more committed. You take a day off because of a sick child, you are not. I mean, that kind of attitude needs to change, because otherwise we will never move forward. And the company, for all the good intentions they have when they implement all these policies, and for all the employees that benefit from it, if the workplace attitude doesn't change towards this, we are never going to make any progress. I think that is one area that I want to talk about. And the other one is, as we become more women in the industry, they will become sort of a role models for younger women outside of the industry to look up to them. You know, like, oh, so joining games is a potential career path. There is this, for example, there's this esports player that's doing really well. Like, I want to be an esports player. Despite all the scrutiny I'm going to get as a female gamer. But these are things that if we don't make an effort as a whole society to move forward, it's not something that we can compartmentalize in policies in the company.
Yeah. Thank you. Rebecca and Kathy, you are both on the managerial position in the game studio. What are the things that when your female employee comes to you, what do they hope and see more from the company, and what do you answer or address what they're asking for? Kathy.
That's a really good question, and I was thinking about it because even within our so Dan and I both work in a Riot Hong Kong and Singapore studio, our women population is still very small. And I was actually just, giving a live example again, like the first people manager hire into that Riot Games studio. So I felt like a lot of weight on my shoulders as well to have to kind of role model that for the other women within the studio. But I think similar to the conversation we're having today, and even internally, it's the same topics that we were having. I remember some of the other women, whether they're in different disciplines, right? So I am leading people in operations for our studio, but there's artists, game developer, design, QA, there's engineers, etc. And we all came with the same themes, just like the things we're talking about today, of how can I feel like I'm equal with a seat at the table when I might be the only female in the room? Because often that's the case, right? How do I make sure that my gender, and again, sometimes we come in with that unconscious bias as well, or we come in with our own bias, being very cautious that I happen to be the only female in the room. We need to stop thinking that way sometimes. And I keep reminding a lot of the people I mentor, like, if you're that sensitive to it, everybody else in the room will also be. So let's break those barriers down. And if you show up as an equal to the table, everyone else will treat you as such as well. So a lot of the conversations ongoing, a lot of discussions, but similar again to the topics that you've raised today, everything from junior in their career wanting to grow, but also, as we also talked about, working moms. And then the conversation there, I also get the question of like, so when is it a good time to have kids? That's a personal choice, right? There's no right or wrong. But through that, in terms of the career context of when might be a good timing, again, that's very personal, different stories that you need to share based on what you want to achieve within your career and within your personal life as well. But yeah, I was just kind of taking it back to this. It's the same topics that I'm talking within the company that we're talking about today here.
Thank you, Kathy. Rebecca, what do you think?
Well, I have to say that I'm very lucky in a way, because the first time I met my boss during an interview, actually, I was surprised to him because I'm extremely short, and I'm supposed to own NBA 2K, so it's a basketball game, and my boss actually used to play that too. And so if you can search him up, Rick Thomas, he's like extremely tall, so I'm only to his waistline. As a female, owning a sports game is kind of a surprise. I didn't think I would get it actually, but I'm so surprised that he has very big heart and open mind. On in 2K, we actually take
different style of working style, different way of working gender-wise, and doing a lot of support. And so I'm so glad he do have the faith in me. And when we built a studio here, actually, I inherited a studio, but it was a very slim on the female population. So that was one of the action items for myself that I want to actually increase it. And so luckily, we can at least get past the 20% line right now in the production team. So including developer, artists, and tester, and definitely producers. We have a good number, but we're looking for more. I do want for more. And I think in this industry, we just need to hand in hand, help each other, and just encourage more females and providing a better environment. And yes, I have experienced that there are candidates coming in the field. It's not in my current job, in previous job, that she was pregnant when she was interviewing. And her concern is like, would that be a disadvantage? And she was very honest and bring it up to me and during the interview. And I was like, that's not an issue at all. The key is whether or not you can do the job. And if you can do the job, you'll be only out for a few months to get the baby, and we will support you when you're becoming a mother. So we will be flexible on time. We'll actually encourage you to come back. We'll provide you the support. And I agree with Kathy that when I first moved to this office in September, one of the things that I insist on is building a mother room. I don't see a reason why a newborn mother will have to go into storage to prepare the food for her baby. So this is very important. A small change, a small move, but this is something that I want to show our employees is everybody can enjoy their career, not just come to work, but really come here, have a family that support her, and also is someone that actually she can rely on. And so I can see a lot of positive attitude once they see the mother's room available, and the girls are like very happily. I do have a few to-be mother in my team right now, and we have a lot of celebration with them.
Thanks very much. Yeah, although you cannot see it, but I actually have a big smile under my mask. Yeah.
So see, that's a good thing. We're all virtual. We don't need to wear masks.
Yeah, I do feel positive and confidence on the subject because we see game studios are taking very solid actions. And we have platforms like Delph, like Women in Games. We continue to bring this conversation forward. And also we have role models like three of you inspire more women to join the industry and be successful. So that's a great thing to see. Since we are at Cyberport, let's talk a bit about Hong Kong specifics. So what do you see or observe about the local talent market, and what can we do to grow them further? I guess I'll bring this question to Kathy first, followed by Rebecca.
All right, so this is a topic definitely near and dear to my heart, being based here in Hong Kong. In terms of looking across like gaming companies, gaming industry, and there's a lot of different types of job roles and a lot of different skill sets that we need, obviously, from engineering, art creative, game design producers, over to the publishing, marketing, events, esports side. And recently, at least with Riot, we've been pivoting and building an entire entertainment ecosphere centered around our games for Riot Music and other entertainment. We had Arcane or TV animated series launched. So you can see how many different skill sets are needed. Taking it back to Hong Kong, what I've observed so far and through my conversations with other gaming companies, with Cyberport, with CUHK and some other universities and education, I see Hong Kong investing a lot on the tech side, engineering side, especially focus on fintech. Hong Kong is known for its finance, banking industries, as well as also like retail, consumer goods, et cetera. So there is a lot of investment that I do see on the engineering side, but I do see still gaps more on game design overall, game focus overall, art and creative. So I'm excited to be here because I wanted to have these conversations to start talking to the Hong Kong community, how we can do more on that. How we can do more in terms of holistic game industry and that type of talent, that we can really continue to foster and build that, especially starting with a great partner like Cyberport and that focus for the game industry. So kind of just a brush across the board. The engineering, definitely there and a lot of investment, but there's still gaps on the other side. And even speaking specifically to engineering from my tech space, I have gone in the past to a lot of the greater Bay Area strategy conversations that they were hosting with Hong Kong as a part of that region. And again, a lot of focus on tech, which is awesome. And you see that in a lot of the innovation being done, the accelerators, a lot of the new startups here, especially in Cyberport. But that gap on the creative and engineering talent, we need you. We're looking for you. And anything we can do to continue to partner, especially from Riot or a lot of the gaming companies' perspective, I love to continue to have those conversations. I guess over to Rebecca.
Yeah, as a native born and raised in Hong Kong person, I actually have vested interest to actually see more development or education perspective type of a training for more talents, because I do try multiple times to go recruit in Hong Kong for our Shanghai office. Unfortunately, not exactly finding the right match. I do used to work in Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, so I went back to Career Center and worked with them, but unfortunately still not finding the exact right match that I'm looking for. So I think I agree with Kathy, there's a little gap there. The technical side, yeah, for engineers, you know how to do code in C++ or C#, then you can pretty much handle it on the engine side. But there's a lot more than just that when it comes to gaming. And when I say gaming, it's not just the game industry. If everybody's talking about metaverse right now, you can think about life going forward. It's going to be gamification, everything. If you want to make a purchase somewhere, you go online on a virtual space, and then you actually enjoy your shopping experience on that virtual world. And a lot of those content will require how you render the graphics. So we don't have a lot of this kind of specialty in the Hong Kong tertiary education program right now. And also on the art side, I'm a little bit surprised because I thought Hong Kong has always had very good entertainment industry, filming, special effect, and those kind of talents, advertising talents. But when it comes to games, it seems like there's a lack of focus there. Not many people really want to do 3D model, graphics type of development, learning the latest and greatest on our graphic rendering, which are some of the talents that we are heavily rely on and desperately seeking for. So if this is something that Cyberport can help to bring up the concern from our industry, this is not just about women anymore. It is about the entire pool. Because if we don't have the pool, there's nothing to talk about gender equality because there's none in the pool. So once we have at least a good number there, then we can see how we can have more females to get into, or non-binary individuals to get into the industry and optimize their talents there. So definitely, I think there's a lot to be done. And hopefully, the next talk I can come back to Hong Kong is I can speak in Cantonese, which is something I miss a lot. 我好想講廣東話，真係好耐冇講過廣東話啦，成日都係國語同英文。So this is something I feel like wholeheartedly I want to support.
Thank you. Kah Hui, we all know that Singapore also have a vibrant game development or creative industry. So what do you see that works particularly well from your side to promote and grow game development talent?
I think from the Singapore government perspective, once they have defined, they want to grow a particular industry in the country, they will start building a whole ecosystem around it. It comes up from, generating the talent pipeline, which is getting more people creating courses that are related to games in schools, or even dedicated schools that are teaching people how to be involved in games. It could be courses related to art, to programming, to sound and music design, anything that goes into production of the game. And then I'm also an advisor to the Singapore Games Association. So I know how involved it is. They have focus group discussion that brings together the industry and the schools so that they know where the gap is. Why is it my students that graduate from this college cannot be immediately deployed in production in games? What is the gap there? Because we can't just produce people with certain curriculum that doesn't really meet the needs of the industry, like immediate needs. And the other things that they go about doing is we have like a whole country-wide thing like Skills Future, which gives all the Singaporeans at least a certain amount of money, those that are above 25, to go for further education, personal development. And on top of that, when I did my master's a few years back, my dissertation was focused on localization for games. And I was a recipient of like the Skills Future Study Award, media sector, because that is, games is considered part of the media sector that we are trying to grow. So you can see all the little steps they've taken about it. And then there's SUTD Game Lab that brings together internships, like interns, and they create teams of people that has programmers, artists, designer, and they are to produce the game in 14 weeks. It may be a small one, but those with potential goes on to become a fully developed game that are released, because we have actually past game teams that have released games, indie games online. So these are some of the things that I think would greatly benefit any region, any country, any cities that decide to make games or creative industry where their economy will grow in future.
Thank you. So what I do here is not one single person's responsibility, but a joint responsibility of game studios, government, education sector, the platform like Delve. We all need to work together towards the brighter future we hope for. So we are almost at time. I want to invite a round of final share of what is the one message you want to pass on to our audience today. Let's start with Rebecca.
I just want to encourage more future female players to come in this industry, because one thing I want to say that I am very grateful that I can get my career developed in the gaming world. Because I know when I was 17, if I told my mom eventually one day I'm going to create games, I think I probably won't be able to get out of the door to go study. Because I think a lot of those are perceptions that are inherited for a long time, and people will need to start looking into the whole gaming industry slightly different from just addiction. But looking into more future development, gaming to me is not just for enjoyment. It's going to be all walks of life involvements. It's going to be ecosystem, it's going to be platform. So it's going to be evolving into a very interesting path. So the more the merrier. Actually, I would like to see more male or female interested in this industry, especially from Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong needs to look into something beyond just fintech or just the other industry, like basically the biggest part of Hong Kong is on property management or property sales, those kind. Try to develop something new, and I do believe that the gaming world is going to be very evolving. There's a lot of changes, and Hong Kong can participate there.
Sorry, I just come to the realization that we have so many burning questions. How much time do we have? Do we have time for one question? Yeah. Okay, so yes. So I guess the question that very inspiring. Thanks for the great sharing. Seeing more game developer targeting female gamers. I think women's share of gaming population will rise. You think?
Is the question, will female players' population continue to rise?
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't know as a percentage, but in terms of a total number, absolutely. I mean, again, let's just take the Asia region as example. And we were talking about mobile gaming, right? You're getting more and more devices into people's hands. This generation is growing up. Like my kids, they're 8 and 10. From age 1, they know how to swipe on that iPad, right? So they're growing up with devices, and this is only enabling more and more additional platforms that are out there. And you can see that not just in terms of gaming, but across all media spaces. And then what comes on top of that? Content, including gaming, including Riot Music, including Arcane, including a lot of things we're doing.
Yes.
You know, you can see I'm getting excited just talking about it, but that's only going to bring and widen the audience base, the player base even wider, and that includes females. So absolutely, no doubt, the number is going to go up.
Yes, I do agree with Kathy. Actually, the numbers today, if you look at 2021, it is approximately, depends on the study you're looking for, it's $176 to $180 billion in the gaming market right now. But in 2023, just 2 years from now, we're looking into over $200 billion US dollars globally. And there are some forecasts in the next 20 years, it can go over or close to 500 billion. So if you look at those numbers just growing, you have to have more players. Today, we're talking about 3.24 globally, but we will probably easily go up to 5 billion players globally. Sooner or later, with just like what we talked about, if the devices are more available in certain countries, there are still a lot of regions that's not being touched. Right now, today is majorly the two mainstream is US and Asia Pacific, including China. Those are the two main areas, but there is a lot more to discover globally.
Yeah.
So the numbers definitely will have to go up.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. We are at time. Thank you very much for joining us for the panel. We believe this is the beginning and an invitation to continue the conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for facilitating.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.